What we do is that we'll turn to page 4 of this book, The Dose of Non-Dual Wisdom. Page 4. Because that this morning, what we discussed was the need for us to, first of all, identify what we like to shun, what we like to achieve, what we like to shun is miseries or the fears of life, and what we like to achieve is the maximum happiness or the freedom. And then in this connection, we also discussed the need to identify the causes of the problems, causes of the fears, in terms of the ignorance. This is what we identified. So it says, this mantra is actually, let us not take it as the exotic or something the mystical experience. It's not thought of in that form. Instead, it should be a reminder for us. A reminder, practically speaking, what are those things which you dislike? What are those things which you like? And what is your potential? What is the potential inside you? And how to activate this potential by cleansing the mental defilements through resorting to the correct remedies or the correct the paths. So this mantra we're going to recite it 3 times together. And first I'll explain. And then if you don't know the meaning of the mantra, it's pointless. Of course, with the tremendous devotion and so forth, there's a benefit. But then practically speaking, the benefit is going to be far less as compared to somebody reciting the same with knowing the meanings. So, Om. So this syllable Om, you want to add it or don't want to add it is fine. If you want to add it, it simply means Om. The syllable Om is constituted of 3 letters. A, U, Ma. A, U, Ma. These 3 letters, they symbolize the body, the speech and mind. The body that we have, the speech through which we converse with other people, the mind which feels the happiness, which creates the problems, which creates happiness. These 3 things are Ma. When you speak about transforming, it is on page 4. When you speak about awakening the potential inside, in other words, it is to transform the body, speech, mind that we have, into the fully awakened state or the purest form. The body that we have, for example, our body is so prone to sickness, aging, death. And the speech, it doesn't really come out nice. The speech, oftentimes it can be very offensive, offending somebody else. And then the mind, they say, is full of mental defilements. So if you change these 3 to a state of purity, that's the meaning of the Om. How to do that? In other words, to make it very simple, how to awaken this treasure of happiness within us. How to awaken that is Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava. Ye Dharma. Ye Dharma means these phenomena, particularly this phenomena of the miseries, phenomena of the fears which we dislike. Ye Dharma. Hetu, cause, Prabhava, arise. These phenomena of the miseries, they don't arise randomly, they arise with their causes. From the causes, Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava. Hetum Desham Tathagato. Hetum, the causes, the plural form of the causes, Hetum Desham, these, Tathagato meaning the Buddha, Tathagato, Hevatat, is taught. What these causes are is taught by the Tathagata, taught by the Buddha. Tesham Chayo Niruddha. Tesham Chayo, these, again, these, Tesham Chayo Niruddha, cessation. Cessation meaning how to bring an end. How to bring an end to the causes of the miseries. Niruddha, evam, thus, Vadi, again taught or said, Vadi, Mahashramana. Maha is the great, Shramana is the saint or the sage, the seer. taught by the great seer. Ye Swaha. Ye Swaha means established as thus. This is the meaning. This is established. So the meaning, word I explained. Now the next line, next stanza in English, the meaning is there. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes were taught by the Tathagata. The cessational causes as well as taught by the great seer. So this is a mantra, not in the form of, say, to convert somebody, or for say what? It's like you've been, say, the converted, or you've been sealed to be following a particular religion. No, that's not the point. It simply is a reminder for us that the miseries which I go through, they don't arise randomly. They arise from their causes. Because I don't want this, I have to sever the causes. I have to exterminate the cause. And how to terminate the cause? Knowing that the cause is the ignorance, I have to eradicate the ignorance by lighting the light of the wisdom. So this is how, this is what is taught by the great seer, the Buddha. Okay, so this is what I'm going to recite for the 3 times. And those of us who know how to recite this from the early retreats and the early programs, we will recite this with me. And those of us who are first time hearing this, you will listen to us and join us. Om ye dharma hetu prabhavam hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye svaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum desham tathagato yavatat desham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye svaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye svaha. Okay. Our continuation from where we left this morning. Quick summary of what we did this morning is that we all have this treasure, the true nature of our mind and the true nature of the enlightened beings. There's no difference. Just enlightened beings, their mind is so pure, so rich with compassion, so rich with the fearlessness, so rich with ultimate happiness and ease. Likewise, the true nature of mind is so rich in compassion, wisdom, happiness and ease, fearlessness. Yet why don't we feel them? It's all because just as gold when mixed with the soil, we don't see the glow of the gold. Likewise, when our mind, this true nature, is mixed with the mental stains, we don't experience the glow of the infinite happiness and the fearlessness. So, to awaken this true nature of the mind, we need to separate, let this true nature come out by removing the mental stains. And the mental stains, we said, there is of 2 kinds, the gross and the subtle. The gross one attracts, gross one referred to as the afflictive obscurations, that attracts all the fears. And the subtle one, like the smell of the garlic, that is one which is responsible for, say, pushing away all our ease and happiness. Now, to get rid of these 2 mental defilements, so that the true nature of the fearlessness, the true nature of the ultimate happiness come out. For that matter, we need to apply the remedies, apply the antidotes. We need to resort to some systems. So whatever actions or the systems that we employ, that becomes your path. The path is not necessarily that a path simply means somebody has to follow religion. There's no point. The point is that, well, finally, whatever the makes you accomplish, whatever in your mind, what we learned this morning is that irrespective of your gender, irrespective of your ethnicity, irrespective of which country you're from, irrespective of religion, irrespective of so whatever the distinctions, we are common in one thing, that is that we all aspire for fearlessness, and we all aspire for the infinite, expansive ease. If that is the case, then the goal is very clear. When the goal is clear, then a system that you resort to, that becomes your part of the life. As simple as that. So with this, the path, what takes us closer to this goal? So those systems which help us to eradicate the afflictive obscurations, those systems which help us to eradicate the cognitive obscurations. What is that system? That system, say there's a poisonous tree growing there, with millions of poisonous leaves there, and then the wind blowing from there hits your body, skin rashes are formed, and then you say that it's because of these leaves. Yes, that's true. What do? Okay, you may chop the leaves, and again in a few weeks' time, again many more leaves will grow. So that's true. That was just a temporary relief, temporary respite. It is not the ultimate solution. So wise people, what will they do is they will go to identify the root and then uproot that. Likewise, the wise people will look for the ultimate cause of all these problems and become to realize that this is ignorance. Ignorance at the base of, and of course, those of you who want to really go deeper into this morning what I said is ignorance, technically known as self-grasping ignorance. And the other side we have the self-centered attitude. And if you really want to go detailed to see now my life, okay, I've enough of my life, I know what my life is. Now I really need to look for a meaning. If this is who you are, then our job is to see how these two things, self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude, these two combined together, create all the mental stirs. Self-grasping ignorance, this ignorance per se will not create an evident, manifest pain in you. But when this ignorance, self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude, these two are different. I'm not going to go too much into detail now. Self-grasping ignorance, self-centered attitude, these two when hand in hand together, then will give rise to the attachment, anger, jealousy, fear, and anguish, anxiety. All these things are created. So these are all the outcomes of these two. Now of the two, if you can eradicate the self-grasping ignorance, then what happens is that the afflictive obscurations are gotten rid of. And the sound clap symbolizing the fears of life. The internal factor, self-grasping ignorance, is gone rid of, then it becomes just external factor. With external factor alone, no matter how strong that is, the fear, the sound clap symbolizing the fear of life stands. That is one point. So the wisdom, what helps us to get rid of this self-grasping ignorance? What helps us to get rid of self-grasping ignorance? The wisest people will go for the wisdom. So what is that wisdom? That wisdom, what we discussed this morning, is that the wisdom to see everything like an illusion, everything like a dream. I'm not saying that everything is dream. Everything's dreamlike, like a dream, dreamlike. So our job is, what is the meaning? What is meant by dreamlike? How can I know that? Right? Okay, I can say that, oh, everything is operating on the basis of the quantum mechanics. all the physical realities operating on this quantum mechanics or relativity theory. I can say this, but you must be daring enough to ask me, how can I know this? Not just a thesis, but how can I know this? Likewise, everything's like a dream. How can I know this? For that, we're going to learn in great detail the wisdom of emptiness. It is like, say, this poisonous tree has to be finely uprooted, cut. For that, we need to have a very, say, sharp axe. So that sharp axe is the wisdom to know everything like a dream. Okay. Now, even if you have a very sharp axe, but if the woodcutter is physically so weak, and the two hands trembling, and it may hit the axe at the top, down, then you can never cut the tree. So one, the woodcutter must be very strong, and the hands must be very stable, must be very strong. Likewise, this axe, like the wisdom of emptiness, must be tempered or must be complemented by the very strong person-like determination. Very strong determination is the determination to work for not only one person, but for all beings. That is known as unconditional love of bodhicitta. That is number 2, which we briefly touched this morning. Unconditional love for all beings, wanting to save all beings, wanting to help all beings. Okay. So for that matter, this compassion for other beings is the ground. Now to have this compassion, okay, just tell me, who is more likely to feel, to empathize more strongly with somebody who has acute toothache? Okay, there are two persons, A and B. A never experienced what a toothache is. B already experienced, rich experience of the toothache. Oh, by the way, how many of you had that toothache experience? Okay, one young one, so young ones already have toothache problem. Why did so much chocolate? Sugar. Okay, my age is fine. Right? The younger ones in 20s, how come that you have toothache problem? Okay, so what I'm saying is that if you have acute toothache problem, if you had that, and when somebody's crying out of toothache, okay, say in my case, I don't remember having an acute toothache problem, right? And then anybody who had acute toothache had experience with acute toothache, two of us did, yeah? And the third person is started crying out toothache, right? So which of the two persons, me and the other person, has a greater tendency to empathize more profoundly, me or the other person? Other person, because the other person knows what the toothache is. Okay, I'd like to share a story with this toothache. There was a husband and wife. Okay, if there's husband and wife here, don't take it offense. Okay, Bismillah and no hate. Okay, let's say husband and wife. And what happened was that once the wife was just crying in agony out of the pain, toothache pain, and the husband said, "Hey, what's the problem?" And the wife said, "Acute toothache." What is toothache? Tooth is just a bone. Bone doesn't have pain, right? He just ignored. Then after a while, after 1 or 2 years, the husband had the toothache. He was crying. And the wife said, "Hey, what happened? What's happened? What's going on with you? Why are you crying?" He said, "Acute toothache." You said the toothache is just a piece of bone. There's no pain there. Okay, so what I'm saying, only if you have the pain, you can empathize with others greatly. Only if you know the pain yourself, then you can really feel the pain for all other beings. So this love and affection will be much more intensified if you have the pain, if you know exactly what is meant by pain of samsara. So with this in mind, the ground for this universal love of bodhicitta is the same experience of pain yourself. That experience of pain yourself, wanting to get rid of this personal pain, is known as renunciation. So we see that there are three principal paths. The main path which can actually help you to cut all the mental defilements is the wisdom of emptiness. Okay, let's say this again. Finally, our job is to get into all the mental defilements, to cut this process tree of the mental defilements. So what will cut that is the wisdom of emptiness, the S, the wisdom, to know everything like a dream. Technically, it is known as the wisdom of emptiness. For you, those of you who are new, you can just for time you can say the wisdom to know everything like a dream. Or if you want to make it technical, the wisdom of emptiness. And I'll explain more on that later. So this one, what really cuts the mental defilements. Now to cut this, you need to have the very strong and stable hand and enthusiasm to cut it. That is the wisdom of emptiness. The bodhicitta, unconditional love of bodhicitta, universal love of bodhicitta, which wishes to help all beings. Number 2. That is the bodhicitta, number 2. Now to feel that bodhicitta very strongly, we must have the experience of the pain yourself. Pain yourself and the desire to get out of this pain. That is known as renunciation. So these three things constitute what is known as the three principal paths. So what's the path for you? What do you want? Be kind to yourself and hey, be wisely kind to yourself. What do you mean by be kind to yourself? Get rid of all the fears which you don't like and acquire the maximum happiness. This is to be kind to yourself. The next says, be wisely kind to yourself. What's the meaning? To get rid of all the fears, be wise to know how to get rid of the fears. How to do that? Remove the ignorance. How to remove the ignorance? By cultivating the wisdom. So this wisdom will help you to have two awakenings. Partial awakening and full awakening. Partial awakening is, okay, I want to be free from suffering. Suffering so acute, excruciating. Oh, I must be free from this. Simply thinking of yourself, that will only help you to have a partial awakening. Wanting to help all beings, that will help you have the full awakening. Partial awakening is known as nirvana, personal nirvana, and the full awakening is known as Buddhahood or full enlightenment, Buddhahood. Partial awakening and full enlightenment. Now, with the partial awakening, your fear is gone, but you don't have the capacity to benefit all beings. To benefit all beings, you need to have the incredible universal love of the bodhicitta. So, for the partial awakening, I want to be liberated. I want to be free from suffering. I want to be free from suffering. This is known as, technically, this is known as renunciation. Let us not forget this. What is renunciation? Renunciation is the desire to liberate yourself from the fears of life. Renunciation is the desire or the aspiration to liberate oneself from the fears of life. Number 1, of the three principal paths, this is number 1, renunciation. Renunciation is the aspiration to liberate yourself from all fears of life. From all fears, number 1. Number 2 is bodhicitta. The second principal path is the bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the aspiration to become fully enlightened. Aspiration to become fully enlightened, or aspiration to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Aspiration to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. This is number 2, bodhicitta. Number 3. What is number 3? The wisdom of emptiness. What is the wisdom of emptiness? Wisdom of emptiness is the discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the subtlest of the reality. Wisdom of emptiness is the discerning mind, whose apprehension of the object tallies with the subtlest of the reality. discerning mind. Discerning mind means the mind which decides, mind which is wise enough to decide things. Okay, the discerning mind, whose apprehension of the object, tallies with the reality, tallies with the substance of the reality. Do you follow? Let me say this again. Anybody who can paraphrase what I said? Wisdom of emptiness is the discerning mind whose apprehension of the object tallies with the subtlest of the reality. Never mind, this is it'll take us, we have to spend more time on this, right? Okay, don't worry too much about that. So if somebody asks you, what are the three things to be wise enough, to be wisely kind to yourself? Okay, first, two things to make it very simple. First, be kind to yourself. What is the agenda of your life? What is life? What's the meaning of life? What's the agenda of your life? Two. One is, be kind to yourself. What's the meaning of be kind to yourself? Get rid of all the fears and try to have the maximum happiness. This is the meaning of be kind to yourself. Okay, how many of you want that? How many of you want to get rid of fears and acquire the maximum happiness? Raise your hands. Okay, all of us. Very good. This is the meaning of be kind to yourself. What's the meaning of be wisely kind to yourself? Means cultivate those causes which will actually make you accomplish those two goals. The goal of fearlessness and the goal of maximum happiness. What are the two causes? The causes for the fearlessness is the wisdom. Fearlessness is the wisdom driven by renunciation. Wisdom of emptiness driven by renunciation. Whereas the causes for the maximum happiness is the wisdom driven by the universal love of bodhicitta. You getting it? Okay, this we're able to say incorporate or the study the things quite succinctly just within short span of time. Okay, so what's the meaning of being wisely kind to yourself? In simple terms, what we can say is that do those things which will actually give rise to happiness and to get rid of the fears of life. And after coming to Monash class, you should be able to be more precise. Not only be able to do those things, don't keep it so vague, rather be very precise. By cultivating the wisdom of emptiness, driven by the force of renunciation to get the fearlessness, cultivate the wisdom of emptiness, driven by bodhicitta to get to the infinite happiness. This is the meaning of be wisely kind to yourself. Okay, how many of you at least want to attempt to be wisely kind to yourself? Raise your hands. Right. So if that is who you are, then there's no choice other than to embrace the three principal parts. Right? So what are the three principal parts? Okay, in detail. Where is it? On which page? Page 50. Okay, let us turn to the textbook. Page 50. Page 50. The three principal aspects. Okay, so there are two different, several translations. One says three principal aspects of the path, or to simply put, the three principal parts. The three principal parts. What are the three principal parts? Renunciation, bodhicitta, and the wisdom of emptiness. If you really want to make it even easier, so you can very easily remember these three things, is that one is the actual path and the other one is the motivation. One is the actual path and the driving force, motivation. Actual path is the wisdom of emptiness and the motivation is the renunciation and bodhicitta. Right? So for example, okay, let's say somebody in the school says that, okay, in the college says that, oh, when I grow older, I want to become a professor of physics. Professor of physics, and the professor of physics, if possible, Nobel laureate in physics, and then the student